Hey everybody, Josh here with How to Roll Dice. This is our second video on our newly revitalized channel. It's the first one that's going to have any real content in it though. First off, I want to say two things. This video is in no way meant to discourage anybody from playing either Warmachine and Hordes or Company of Iron. Our play group loves Privateer Press and those three games in particular, but a lot of the stuff that they've released, a lot of the board games, things like that. So this is not meant to try to sway anybody in one way or the other. It's just sort of the decision that we've made based off of the experience that we've had with the game lately, or the games lately, and how it's worked out for us. Also, second quick point, I am sitting right next to a window, as you can see. It's the best lighting I could get at this time of day where I live, and there's obviously a road outside, and there's some cars going by, so every now and then a large truck will go by. I've tried to position my microphone so that you won't hear that, but if you do, I apologize. So, moving into the brunt of things, we have pretty much entirely, other than one person in our group who's still kind of iffy on it, but he's going to give it a shot soon, we have moved on from Warmachine and Hordes to Company of Iron. This is something that we decided on because we more or less decided that Warmachine and Hordes don't work for us anymore. The games have a lot going on right now. There's a lot of change going on, not necessarily in the rules, but there's Infernals that just came out, which is an entirely new play style, more so than when like Convergence came out and people were like, oh, well, their Jacks use a new mechanic, or when Retribution came out and people were like, well, they have this new shield system on their Jack grid, or different things like that, where it was a small change to the game, but it was kind of still the same game. Infernals adds a whole new level, which is great. It's going to be awesome for the game, I think. It's just we were having trouble keeping up with it. We tried to do it here on the channel, and you could tell that as the videos progressed, we were having trouble sticking with the rolling changes. Part of that sort of leads me to another point, which is the new way that Privateer Press is rolling out changes, doing these sort of monthly rules updates on a theme or faction or even general basis. That's a great system. I think it's going to get the game sort of moving at a constant rate. Obviously, that's the intent, and keep updates and changes flowing so that nothing ever feels broken or underpowered, or just keeps the system nice and balanced. I think that's a great idea. I just feel like for casual players like us, it makes it a little difficult to stay on top of things. It's not always as simple as, check your cards in War Room before you start playing and make sure there's no rules changes. It makes it very difficult to know your opponent's army, to know all of your options. Granted, I play Mercenaries, specifically Searforged, so it's a much tighter group of models that I need to know and keep an eye on. But everybody else in our player group plays full factions. So you've got Circle, you've got Khador, you've got Crix, you've got Grimkin, and trying to stay on top of all of your options and how they've changed, when they've changed, as well as making an effort to know each other person in the group's faction, so that when you play them, you're not completely in the dark. It was getting a little tiring, and more so, it was getting difficult. We all work full-time jobs. Most of us have kids, families, and so it was getting tricky to stay on top of the changes. And then lastly, it was that even when we made a serious effort to fit games in, we were having way too hard of a time making the games brief. Not even necessarily brief, but getting them down to where people were telling us they should be. Our games were taking between 2 and 4 hours, most likely somewhere right around that 3-hour line. And for us, that was a lot of time. I mean, we only have 5, maybe 6 hours on a good day to fit games in. So at the very best, that's 2 games that we were playing, and on some days they would roll so long that we'd just wrap up the match and everybody would go, all right, well, I'm kind of tired of playing games now, so they'd leave. We also didn't necessarily have the space to always run 2 full 48-inch by 48-inch games at a time, so it ended up being, okay, we're gonna have 5 or 6 people over, 2 of them get to play a single game, and then that's the day. Everybody go home. It just doesn't work for us. And we could have tried to mix things around to make it work better, but we were having a hard time making it fit for us. So what ended up happening was after 2 or 3 months of trying to make it work, we kind of just stopped, and we were like, you know what, let's play some D&D. Let's take an RPG window and sort of give the tabletop stuff a break just for now. And that was okay for a little bit, 3-4 weeks maybe. But then we started to have this sort of lament that our models were just sitting on a shelf or in a cabinet collecting dust, not being used, not being painted. We all still had unbuilt models in packages that were sort of the most recent things that we had purchased when we stopped playing. And they were sitting on a shelf somewhere, just never going to be assembled. And we didn't like that. We wanted to play a tabletop game. A few people in the group were thinking about moving off to other games, like something from the Games Workshop company, 40K or Warhammer Fantasy. But for the rest of us, it was that had sort of a daunting, really am I going to go buy a whole new army and learn a whole new system and throw myself into the world and try to immerse myself in all of the lore like I've been doing with Privateer Press for, over a decade now? Do I really want to do that? And for most of us, the answer was no. We wanted to use the stuff that we liked, the game that we liked, the models that we had spent probably thousands of dollars on. And so what I came to the conclusion on was the first thought was let's try to find a cheap, easy to start game. So my thought was a skirmish tabletop game. Fewer models means fewer models to buy, means smaller investment to get going. I also prefer skirmish style games because they tend to play faster, both in feel and in actual timeline. Usually a skirmish style game, in my head, I was thinking they took about an hour. And usually you're playing between 6 and 10 models, and a lot of time the play activation passes back and forth between you and your opponent on a per model basis. I like that. It makes the game feel snappy and fast, as opposed to the sluggish feeling that we were getting from these Warmachine and Hordes games. Even when we tried to play Steamroller and sort of force ourselves to drive through the games as quickly as possible, we kept running up against this wall of either it's taking us way too long, 2.5, 3 hours, 2 hours, being our average best time. I think one time we got a game to like an hour and 40 minutes. But as we drove closer to that faster play style, we had less fun playing the game, to the point where when we played that really quick game at about an hour and 40 minutes, which for us, that was very quick. It was me and our friend Chris, and we kind of just looked at each other at the end and we were like, all right, I feel like I just moved models the whole time. I didn't think about anything. I didn't really enjoy any moment in the game in particular. It was just move, roll dice, move, roll dice. Okay, it's over. And we didn't really enjoy that playstyle. So anyways, I got onto the concept of let's look for a skirmish game. I checked out Infinity, I checked out Guild Ball, I checked out Malifaux, I checked out, there's 2 games offered from Games Workshop, which are Kill Team, which is their 40K based game, and then Necromunda, which is, I guess it's technically still 40K, but it's got this RPG feel to it. And aside from the fact that those games didn't necessarily click with what I was looking for, when I looked into the actual play style of the games, everybody was saying that those games still take like 2.5 hours. Some people were saying if you get good at it, you can get it down to like an hour and a half, maybe an hour. And I was thinking to myself, we're going to run into the same issue. We're going to have people over for the night. We're going to fit in 1, maybe 2 games, and then that's the whole evening. And we can do that, once, maybe twice a week? That's not a lot of gameplay. And so then it dawned on me, and I don't know why it took me so long to realize, that Privateer Press has a skirmish game. It's Company of Iron. It's the smaller scale, sort of zoomed in version of Warmachine and Hordes. Same exact models, very similar rules. I'd say it's about a 60% rule, similarity, and then the other 40% are rules tweaks to make the game work on a smaller, tighter scale. But other than that, we have that game. We own everything for it. We bought the box set when it first came out. We have all the rule books. We have the command deck, which you use to play the game, to sort of like replace the Focus Fury manipulation abilities. We have the tokens, although you could honestly make your own tokens to play the game. So anyways, we decided to give it a shot. We played 1 or 2 games, and we were kind of astonished at how much we enjoyed it. With only one of us having really read through all of the rules, which is myself, and everybody else kind of just like winging the rules changes and using their pre-existing Warmachine and Hordes knowledge, we were able to get through our first 2 or 3 games with every game coming in under an hour. I think the average was about 45 minutes. So that's basically learning the game and playing and enjoying yourself, playing at an enjoyable rate and still finishing in about 45 minutes. So that's exactly what we were looking for. And again, we don't have to purchase any new models. We own all the models. Models that we might purchase are for, other factions that we hadn't played, because another cool thing is, if you've ever played Warmachine and Hordes, you know that you get very sort of like distracted and you want to go down these rabbit holes of like, oh, I really like this one unit from this faction I don't play, or I love this specific solo, their character backstory has such cool fluff to it, but it's for a faction I don't play, and I don't want to just buy the model to paint it. I want to play it, but I don't want to start a new faction, because that's a whole thing. And so with Company of Iron, you could literally say, oh, I really like these, 5 or 6 Signar models. I think I'm going to buy just those models. I'm going to spend maybe $100, and boom, that's like a crew for a Company of Iron. I can play that list in Company of Iron, fully functional. I get to play those models I like, I get to build them, paint them, use them in a game, and I've spent $150 as opposed to $500 to build out a functional faction that I really am not even interested in. I just want those things. So that really worked for us, and we've sort of been continuing down that path of playing more and more games in almost a more and more structured format as well. We've been running these things that I was calling Friday night fights, which is basically we get 5 or 6 people, we're trying to build it up to 7 or 8, to come over on a Friday night, and I slap together a quick double elimination tournament bracket. We start at 6 o'clock because that's when my sun goes down, so we sort of free up the night at that point. And we get through pretty much an entire double elimination tournament bracket, playing 2 games side by side because it's only a 30-inch by 30-inch board, so you can easily fit 2 on a dining room table. So we play 2 games side by side, and we get through the entire tournament bracket by like 10:30 at night, which is great. It's 4.5 hours, and you've gotten through an entire 6-person double elimination bracket. And everybody's having a good time, and everybody's getting to play multiple games and watch other games. And, you know, take a break to eat food in between your matches. It's such a good setup. And so I'm not going to get into the nitty-gritty detail differences between the games, but just, again, a quick comparison. The learning curve between the 2 games, if you didn't know anything about Warmachine and Hordes, you had never played, and you just wanted to start Company of Iron, the learning curve, I would say, it's about the same. There's definitely a slight, there's a sort of a slight discount on the learning curve for Company of Iron because you're removing, I guess now, Masters, Warcasters, and Warlocks. And so you don't need to worry about learning Fury Manipulation, Focus Manipulation. But at the same time with Company of Iron, you have the command cards and the commander upgrades that kind of modify how you build lists and how you play through an actual game. As far as starting the games, like buy-in cost, much lower for Company of Iron. You could actually buy the Company of Iron box set if you could still get it, and this is a point for Privateer Press if any of you are watching this, and I'm sure you're not, but if you are, where did it go? If you go to the Privateer Press store, you can't buy the Company of Iron box set, you can't buy a second command deck, which you would really need to run a second game, like if you wanted to do side-by-sides like we're doing, you need a command deck per game, not per player, but per game. The box only comes with 1, so if you wanted to run a second game side-by-side to run some kind of a tournament, or even if you were a game store, and you wanted to run multiple games, you know, on different tables, assuming the players can't provide their own command deck because they didn't get one when the game first came out, there doesn't seem to be anywhere to buy them other than you can go to Drive-Thru-RPG and have one printed for you, which is actually what I ended up doing. It was like $6. So that's worth it, but did they just decide to stop supporting the game? You can't buy the box set, you can't buy the rule books, you can get the rules for free online, that's cool, but you can't get like the tokens that you use to play the game, which again, you could easily print out or, you know, cut out of cardstock or whatever, go to Staples and have them printed. You can't get those anymore. You can't get the paper rule books, you can't get the command deck, which is a 40 card, you know, sort of custom card deck that has all the different things that you would use to replace boost and shake abilities and things like that. You can't get that anywhere. I don't even care about the fact that it came with a Signar list worth of models and a Pharaoh list worth of models. We haven't even built those yet. They're sitting in the bags on the shelf in our modeling room. We just, you know, I want the actual stuff. You need to play the game. You can't get it anywhere. So that's weird. Even on Amazon, I think I found 1 box set. None of the online stores have any left. I don't know why they just discontinued it so quick. Maybe it was originally meant to be a limited run and they just never explained it like that. I don't know, but they've totally continued to support it in War Room. If you go into War Room 2 and you switch from Company of Iron, you switch from Warmachine and Hordes to Company of Iron from the little, you know, menu option, all the cards are fully updated. All the newest cards are in there. Riot Quest cards are in there, fully updated for Company of Iron. All the Infernal stuff is in there, fully updated. And they do a really good job of modifying the cards. So rules that change between Warmachine and Hordes to Company of Iron, which quite a few do when you get down to model-specific rules, they're all updated on the Company of Iron cards. So even if you don't know the rules that well, but you know Warmachine and Hordes rules, you can pretty much make it through a game. You know, you're going to screw some stuff up because there are measurement differences and there are certain penalties, benefits that you get on Company of Iron that you are in Company of Iron that you don't get in Warmachine and Hordes. But War Room is so well updated that you could pretty much rough your way through a game. So anyways, it's to say that it's fully supported is true, or I should say to say that it's still fully supported by Privateer Press is true, but like half true. It's fully supported. You could continue, you could pick it up and start playing it right now, but you'd have a hell of a time getting the original materials to start playing. You'd basically get digital PDFs that are free to download of the rules that you could print out. You could print out and make your own copies of their tokens. And you could order from a company like DriveThruRPG copies of the command deck. And then the rest is done through War Room. So that's odd, but I will say that I will consider that fully supported. If War Room ever stops updating, then that's kind of the end of it. They've killed it, and I hope they never do that. And I hope they do like a second edition re-release of the box set, maybe include 2 new little faction lists, or start selling the command deck as a separate item for like $10. But anyways, that's all ranty and off the point. The point is, we have switched over fully from Warmachine and Hordes. For numerous reasons, we find the game fits our lifestyle better, and we've been enjoying it quite a bit. We plan on filming some Let's Plays, or whatever you want to call them, some matches, and upload those. And if we can get to the point where we're good at getting the camera set up and getting through a game efficiently and making it look nice, maybe we'll try to do those on a weekly basis, just get one up a week. Because we kind of want to promote the game, and we kind of want to make a point of saying like, hey, this isn't dead. Like, this still exists, and this is a great alternative to Warmachine and Hordes for people that don't have time to sit down and play a 75-point match over 2 hours, or that want to play in the Warmachine and Hordes universe that don't have $1,000 to flesh out an army. We have 2 friends, that a cousin and a friend of my cousin, that are fresh out of college, have no money, have loved the Privateer Press Warmachine and Hordes universe for years now, and just have never been able to get into it because of the startup cost. And when I told them that Company of Iron was a thing and that we were sort of getting into it, they were like ecstatic. They were like, this is amazing. I've bought a couple troll models here and there. I've got maybe 4 or 5. Is that enough to play? And I was like, I mean, at the very least, it's enough to proxy, depending on what you own. If it's beasts and a warlock, then you're kind of out of luck. But if you've got a few solos and maybe a unit, you're good to go. So yeah, it's got a lot of perks to it. It is a different game. I get if you want that massive, epic, 50 models per side of the table, giant gargantuans and battle engines. It doesn't have that. That's not what it is. But as much as we love those things and we've bought those models, that game just doesn't work for us, and Company of Iron does. And so we're super pumped to be getting into it, and we hope to share some of our games with you guys, and we hope that you give it a shot. If you haven't played it in a while, or if you've never played it, if you picked up the box set and kind of just shelved it, give it a shot. Pull it back out. See if you enjoy getting through 3 or 4 games in a single night as opposed to 1 or 2. And getting to play things that you wouldn't normally play with because they're from factions that you've never had the effort to go out and build, but you've liked individual models. Try the rules differences. I think some of the rules differences are really cool. I like the fact that you can't just snipe somebody from across the table because you took a 14-inch unit that becomes 16 inches if they stand still, and then put +4 snipe on them, and now you're just standing in the back line like double tapping from across the table. It gets rid of that to some extent. We'll probably do a video on some of the rules differences, breaking down the differences between the 2 games. Not an overall tutorial, though we might do one of those as well. We might just do something like, here's how it works in Warmachine and Hordes, here's how it works in Company of Iron, just to give you a feel for why the games are different. Or maybe you just watch some of our Let's Plays and pick it up on your own. But anyways, this video has gone on too long, but that's what we're up to. That's why we shifted. That's why we think that you guys should give it a try. And comment down below, let us know how you feel about that. Let us know if you do want like a full tutorial on how the game works, or a demo, or anything like that. Or if you just think that we're making a terrible mistake and we should all go back to Warmachine and Hordes. Let us know how you feel. It's been good talking to you guys, and we will be back soon with another video.